ourselves, and the steps we use to create a meditative exercise can be very useful, though, in daily life. The process of observing serves us in many conditions in daily life, and that's very important. The pure observation is recommended really just as an exercise, I say. And to begin with, it can be just as simple as what I call sports meditation. It can be a very just easy, relaxing thing, doing nothing more than casually observing your breath just to calm down and relax. Okay, it's very good for that. I once had a job as a computer programmer working for a major company, and I had for about a year or so, I was in a very high-stress job where there was an awful lot of work given to me that had to be done on a timely basis, and I had a lot of people under me that were waiting all the time for the results of my work. So I had a lot of stress, and there was more work than I could really get done, so I was always showing up a little early and pushing real hard. Consequently, I was so intent all the time on getting my work done that when it was time for lunch, I was so keyed up, I couldn't begin to hardly think about lunch. And once I finally did force myself to go get some food, I'd always bring it right back to my desk so I could go back to work. And then I'd find myself stuffing my face with a sandwich or whatever while I'm doing more work, trying to get it done over the lunch hour. Well, of course, this leads to a lot of problems. You don't chew your food at all. You don't even remember what you ate. You just kind of inhale it and swallow it, and you get stomach aches or whatever, but it's certainly not conducive to good eating habits. So what I developed was another little game, kind of like the bus deal, but I just saw myself, and I used the bus. I would see all my work problems, situations, and things that I had to get done, get on the bus. I would calm myself down, and I would use my screen. And on my screen, though, this time, I would always tell myself that the words relax, R-E-L-A-X, would come on the screen, one letter at a time, and they would go through a series of color changes, each letter. And it would take about 30 seconds for that entire word, relax, to go through the screen in different colors. And by the time it would get to the letter X at the end, I would be all calmed down. I would have forgotten all about my workload for the morning, and I could actually eat and enjoy my food. So it became handy then to use the logic of what I was doing, something practical right there. I have a few more things to explain to you about the psychology, I guess, or the logic of what meditation is, and then I'm going to walk you through a meditative exercise, explain exactly how to do it, and lead you through it so you can start getting on your own road to practicing these ideas. But I want to finish first for a little bit more here, explaining more about the concept of what meditation is, because it can be done improperly, and you can actually kind of harm yourself if you're not careful. Well, so far we've talked about the ability we need to observe things very clearly, right? Okay. Well, by observing things clearly, what we're doing is we're learning to concentrate on it and see it exactly for what it is. We need to develop a thoroughness of observation. This is very difficult and it takes a lot of work. But if you plan to have any kind of success at all with your meditation, you have to spend quite a bit of time at this level and invest a little in it, or things are just not going to develop. You have to develop the ability to clearly observe an object thoroughly and see it exactly for what it really is. Clear, absolute knowing and logic about what you are actually looking at. If it's a pack of cigarettes, or if it's a problem in life, or if it's a car, a person, whatever it is, we need to develop the ability to clearly see things exactly as they are. This requires that we observe that object without any kind of prejudice or emotion involved. Remember the process we talked about of how we gather information with our senses, with our sight, touch, taste, smell, and hearing, and so forth? Well, that's what we're used to doing. We're used to always seeing things, and we perceive what they are and so forth with our senses. And after we've seen something once or twice, we gather information about it. And then we have a known kind of library on it. We have an inventory of thoughts about something, like smoking. People who are serious smokers, they could probably write down a whole page of ideas why it's good to smoke. All these pleasure things they get from it. And they develop more and more of them as they go along. They have to learn to turn that off, to shut that down. That's what we're going to do in meditation. So that if for somebody who does smoke, they could use this as a practice, take that practice of cigarettes, and begin to meditate and clearly see cigarettes for exactly what they are. Okay? Because if we allow all of our preconceived notions about something, our attached attitudes and emotions to an object, we're always going to fail in the meditative practice. We will never be able to develop our meditation on a thing if we do that. So our first practice then really is just to learn how to concentrate and clearly see something thoroughly. The pure observation of an object is merely the registration of that object, to see exactly where it starts and stops and exactly what it is. It's not easy, it's very difficult, but it's very important that you put the effort out to try it, to clearly see something and concentrate on it well, because once you do, you'll reach a small level of success. And once you reach that small level of success, you'll notice that you actually have some power, that you really do have a spirit, and that you start to get yourself somewhat in balance, where not your entire life is not actually controlled by your material self, and there's kind of a thrill involved there. And there's this feeling of personal power, the knowing that you can actually have some control over the physical world around you. It's obviously difficult because we're not used to clearly observing things. We rely all the time on our inventory of, preconceived notions and ideas about things, all of our judgments. It's really very rare when you start out meditating that you can actually concentrate on anything very long or see it very clearly. But that's what we're after. We have a habit, especially in our society, through advertising and everything else, we are taught, we are conditioned continually in TV and books and magazines and motion pictures and so forth to always have attitudes about things, because that's how they sell us products. And that's how they control us, even if it's an election. We just elected Bill Clinton president, and a lot of the election, as you can see, is through all the negative campaigning, is creating votes through fear and negativity and so forth. Well, that's a tried and true method. They know if you can rile people up and say things that cause them to attach anger and hostility to another candidate, that's how they'll see that individual. And when they go to the polls, they certainly won't vote for them because they've attached some of their bad feelings, their negative feelings to that person, and it's been triggered by this other candidate. So more and more people are catching on to that, though, and I see it's very good that a lot of people are standing up to the negative campaigning, and it didn't go well at all for Bush to do that this time. The next thing I want to talk about is what Billy calls the acquirement. And the acquirement, frankly, it's just to be able to acquire a pure observation of something. It's a word that he uses. See, if the material consciousness, which has control over the pure observation, is not strictly controlled by pure and clear attention, then when it passes the observation on to the spirit, it'll receive a distorted material view of the object, and your meditation has failed. You see, we're going to use our senses to originally perceive the object. Okay, let's say that pack of cigarettes again. So we're going to use our eyes, and maybe if there's a cigarette they're smoking, we'd also use our nose. But we're going to use our eyes to observe it. We might even pick the package up and touch it and feel it a little bit. We might take a cigarette out and put it to our lips and taste the tobacco or whatever. So we can use our senses now to actually discover everything about this cigarette package. If we don't make any effort to clearly observe it, what are we going to do? We already have preconceived feelings all about it, all the things that we like about smoking. And when we attempt then to pass on our observation through the subconscious over into the subconscious of the spirit about all of our logic and knowledge we have about this cigarette package, what's going to happen? We're going to send it all of our negative information about it, all these preconceived notions of how wonderful smoking is, and how great it is, and how pleasurable, and how we like it. Well, we don't gain anything, do we? So no meditative immersion is possible there. We gained nothing. Matter of fact, we kind of damaged ourselves because now we're beginning to train our spiritual self that it's good to smoke. So we really gained no ground there at all. So to acquire a pure observation is the task of sorting out the extraneous thoughts and unwanted thoughts and feelings so we do not